I'm a white person that was born here, and there should be nothing wrong with that. And yet, as a white man, I'm the most hated person in this country. Don't think that we should be hiring brown people from other countries because white people in America are stupid.
Nailed it.
If white people in America are stupid, that's a failure of the experiment that's been running in our country called public education.
Correct.
And I don't think that that's true at all.
It is.
Victimhood is one hell of a drug, and conservatives have been hooked on it since day one. But what else would you expect when our country's entire existence was built on the fabricated idea, let me say that again, the fabricated idea that white people are superior to everyone else. Equality always feels like oppression to the in-group. And this MAGA moron, well, is making it painfully obvious.
America first means Americans first, not immigrants first.
I just don't understand why everyone hates white dudes.
Whenever you hear someone say that tired, played out talking point, all you have to do is ask them what they mean by American and the groups of people that fall under that heading. 99.9% of the time, the only true Americans that deserve to have their needs met before other groups are WASPs or white Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
These people conflate the miracle of being born here in America with something that they did, something that they worked hard to achieve, which entitles them alone to this land of prosperity, and nobody else, specifically not people darker than them. It's white supremacy. A fundamentally insecure ideology that coddles deeply mediocre people and reassures them that they are better than everyone else, when in reality, they have nothing to offer society other than the idea that white is better than brown.
Good Trouble is spot on. White supremacist ideology acts as a convenient cudgel to delude people who feel abandoned by the system and alone in the world into believing that even at their worst, they're still better than other races solely because of their skin. To any reasonable person, this is of course complete nonsense, but a huge amount of our fellow Americans do not feel the same.
I'd like to know what kind of investigation is underway in terms of outside agitators. I mean, all of these people who've come into America and wanting to disrupt our lives. I would like to see an investigation to ensure that we know that there were no outside agitators starting these fires.
Gavin's been tearing down dams. Why? Because the Indians wanted some of their river back so they could catch salmon. Gavin's literally tearing down Western civilization for fish and Indians. Nothing against the Indians. I love the Indians. But really?
Fox News clown Maria Bartiromo and Jesse Waters decided to hijack the wildfires devastating Los Angeles and the human suffering they're causing to play the blame game we become all too familiar with. We already know what type of people Jesse Waters and Maria Bartiromo are, but it doesn't make it any more discouraging or infuriating, because a lot of people believe what they're saying. You see a tragedy here with all these wildfires, people losing their homes. And your thought is to go to demonizing non-white groups of people instead of mentioning climate change's role and why these fires have been as bad as they are? You are sick in the head. And, well, I'm not going to say what I want to say because, listen, I want to keep my job, but you're a really insufferable human being.
These are not once-in-a-generation wildfires. This is not climate change. This is death by DEI once again, just like we saw last week in New Orleans with Ann Kirkpatrick. The DEI hire police chief. It's the exact same story. Death by DEI, this time with their brand new fire chief. With her wife and children by her side, she took the oath of office in March of 2022, becoming the first female and LGBTQ fire chief.
She actually seems like she might be genuinely ashamed. Like she's not talking about pro-choice values or the community thing and the Latinos and the just all that gibberish that got her elected. It's useless now. That fire is still raging.
Newsmax hosts Ron Finnerty and Greg Telly took slightly different approaches and set their sights on right-wing's other favorite targets, the LGBTQ plus community and Democrats as a whole. CNN's Scott Jennings, on the other hand,
there was some interest in the fire departments and the firefighters in California, and the interest was that there were too many white men who were firefighters, and we need to have a program in California to make sure we don't have enough white men as firefighters. So we have
That's
DEI,
such a
we
great
have
idea.
budget cuts,
Firefighter.
and yet, I'm wondering now, if your house was burning down, how much do you care what color the firefighters are?
What diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about is saying, you know what? Open this up. Don't just look at the white men. Open it up and recognize that other people can be qualified. So listen, if we have been good enough to build this country, we are good enough to serve and die overseas, we are good enough to serve in other ways. And the fact that people actually decide that they want to engage in public service, whether it's sitting in Congress or whether it's serving on the fire department or the police department, should not be an issue. The fact is, stop trying to act as if only white men are the ones that are capable. Because right now, you're sitting at a table with 3 very capable black women.
Well, it's another day that ends in Y, and Scott Jennings is on another CNN panel acting like a jerk, somebody who is committed to misunderstanding DEI programs and more. He knows he's misrepresenting them. That's why Jasmine Crockett had to clap back and set the record straight. No, it's about showing people that there are so many other qualified candidates who are worthy of serving in different professions other than white men. Okay? And I think one of the strongest parts of her argument is when she said, listen, my ancestors built the White House. So if we're good enough to build this country, we're dang sure good enough to serve in other ways. That's also the problem. The fact that she has to do that is the function of racism. The function of racism is a distraction, as Toni Morrison put out, because it keeps you from doing the work. You have to explain your value and your worth over and over again. But that's how deflating and exhausting racism is when you are the one experiencing it. Okay?
This guy loves electric, and we don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more, and he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you're scratching? That's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where you don't have the problems of the electric. And the source is plentiful. They're much cheaper to operate. They're much better. They work much better. They look much better. 60% of homes and apartments have gas heaters. He wants them all removed quickly. These people are crazy.
Sometimes Trump will just say things, and you really have to sit back and reflect on millions of people voted for this man to be in the Oval Office as president. Not once, but twice. Just think about it. It's crazy. Now, getting back to the wildfire situation as a whole, it is catastrophic. It is heartbreaking. And it's very apparent to me that the dire situation going on in California would not have been handled better under Republican leadership, and probably could have been even worse if they were in power due to climate change denial, right? And the unmitigated greed of these fossil fuel corporations who bribe Republicans time after time to work to protect their financial interests at all costs. Just saying. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.